An ultrasound is a sound wave that is acoustic and propagates through a medium by means of vibrations of the molecules that make the medium. Because of this, ultrasound imaging is the second most utilized diagnostic imaging modality after X-rays. An ultrasonic scan creates an image of a person's internal body structures using high-frequency sound waves. High-frequency sound waves are directed inside the body under examination by the ultrasound machine. An image is produced on a monitor by recording the echoes or reflected noises. The handheld probe, also known as the transducer, is a source and recipient of the sound waves. As seen on this slide, on the left is an image of a person getting an ultrasound, and the image on the right shows a 12-week fetus on an ultrasound scan. The construction of the ultrasound machine includes several key components that work together to produce detailed images of the internal structures of the body. The first component of an ultrasound machine is the ultrasound probe or transducer. A piezoelectric transducer is commonly used, and it transmits mechanical energy in the form of sound waves into the tissues. Reflected sound echoes from tissue boundaries can also be detected by the same or different transducer. Firstly, the piezoelectric crystal converts electrical energy into mechanical energy and vice versa. For ultrasound generation, an alternating voltage is applied across opposite surfaces of the piezoelectric crystal. It starts to vibrate, and these mechanical vibrations generate sound waves. As the crystals vibrate at the same frequency as the driving voltage, maximum acoustic energy is delivered by the transducer. For ultrasound detection, when the ultrasound echoes hit the transducer, it causes the piezoelectric crystals to vibrate and generate an equivalent electrical signal. These electrical signals are then amplified, digitized, and processed to form the ultrasound image. The most common piezoelectric material used for ultrasound transducer is lead zacronate titanate. The transducer may consist of a single element or a broadband transducer with multiple elements. Piezoelectric polyvinylate fluoride may also be used in high frequency and high bandwidth that requires focusing to a particular region. It has a low acoustic impedance similar to that of water, hence making it useful in producing ultrasonic pulses with good temporal resolution. The piezoelectric element's thickness is determined by what resonance frequency is needed. A thicker element produces a lower frequency oscillation, while a thinner element produces a higher frequency oscillation. The piezoelectric material is also housed in an enclosure which is acoustically treated. Secondly, positive and ground electrodes on the face of piezoelectric element allows for electrical connection. The positive electrode is placed on the back of the element and supplies an electric current to the piezoelectric element so that it vibrates and generates ultrasound waves. This process is known as the piezoelectric effect. The ground electrode is placed on the front of the element and serves as a reference point for the electrical circuit. The ground electrode provides a return path for the electrical activity, as a positive electrode induces vibrations from the crystals, and the resulting electrical charge needs a path to return, which is provided by the ground electrode. Thirdly, the damping block is adhered to the back of the piezoelectric crystal behind the positive electrode. When the piezoelectric crystal generates ultrasound pulses, they will vibrate or ring. This ringing phenomenon is caused by the continued oscillation of the piezoelectric crystal, which can lead to unwanted reverberations or echoes in the ultrasonic signal. This damping block absorbs and dissipates the residual energy in the piezoelectric crystals and attenuates stray and unwanted ultrasound signals from the housing. This helps to create a shorter spatial pulse length and allows for better axial resolution for imaging on organs and high bandwidth to receive reflected echoes. Fourthly, the plastic matching layer is added to the external face of the crystal to provide acoustic coupling between the crystal and the patient and protects the surface of the crystal. It allows close to 100% transmission of the ultrasound from the element into the tissues by minimizing the reflection from traversing different mediums. It achieves this by consisting of layers of material with acoustic impedances that are between the soft tissues and transducer material, with each layer being a quarter wavelength thick. Lastly, the housing includes a plastic case, metal shield, and acoustic insulator, which acts as an electrical insulator and helps protect the piezoelectric elements. This image shows a block diagram of an ultrasound. We'll start off with the user interface. The keyboard receives input from the user. The input controls also receives input from the user. The communication input-output receives input from the user and gives an output back to the user. The system's display gives an output from the CPU and displays it to the user. For the back end, it includes the CPU, which is the brains of the ultrasound machine and handles the overall control of different processes. It manages the data flow and instructs the other components like the user interface and the scanner. The display takes the processed data and presents it in a visual format on the display when ultrasound image is shown. The digital scan converter helps to convert the raw ultrasound data into a format that can be displayed. It controls analog signals generated by the ultrasound transducer and converts it to digital signals to be processed and visualized. The signal processor applies various algorithms to improve the image quality, helps reduce noise, and enhances specific features, producing a clearer and more accurate representation of the internal structures of the body. The preprocessor handles tasks before the data is fully processed. For example, it helps to filter, amplify, and does initial adjustments to the raw ultrasound signals to prepare them for more detailed processing. The post-processor carries out additional adjustments and enhancements to the processed data before it sends the data to the display. It fine-tunes the image, applies specific image enhancement techniques, and creates different views of the same data. Lastly, the scanner. It includes the master clock, which is a central timing reference for the entire ultrasound system, and synchronizes the timing of all the components, ensuring that the ultrasound pulses are transmitted in a coordinated manner. The transmit beamformer helps to generate and shape the ultrasound pulses. It controls the timing and amplitude of the electrical signals sent to the transducer elements, hence producing a focused and directed ultrasound beam. The transmitter converts the electrical signals from the transmit beamformer into high-frequency ultrasound pulses, which are emitted into the body to create echoes whenever they encounter tissue boundaries or structures. The switch helps to switch signals between the transmitter and the receiver elements of the transducer, and ensures that the same elements that are used for transmitting the ultrasound pulses can be repurposed for receiving the echoes from the body. The TGC, or time gain compensation, is a control system that helps to adjust the amplification of the received signals based on the time it took to receive. It also compensates for the attenuation of the ultrasound signals as they travel through the different tissues, helping to maintain a consistent image brightness. The ADC, or analog to digital converter, helps to convert analog signals and converting received ultrasound echoes into digital signals that can be processed by the system. The help of the digital conversion allows for further manipulation of the ultrasound data. The receive beamformer processes the echoes received by the transducer elements and combines the signal from different elements with precise timing to create focused and high-resolution images. Ultrasound scans serve various functions across different medical specialties. The primary function of ultrasound is to create real-time images of the internal structures of the body using high-frequency sound waves. Here are some key functions of ultrasound scans. Firstly, we have the linear array transducer. The ultrasound transducer that produces images via linear array typically contains 256 to 512 elements, making them the largest assembly. Each element produces a scan line that makes up the ultrasound image. An ultrasonic beam is created by combining several nearby components and emitting it at an angle of 90 degrees to the transducer head. To create a broader aperture and more functional beam shape, several parts of 5 to 20 function as a single unit. To acquire the image, the created ultrasonic beam moves sequentially one element at a time along the transducer. Ultrasound echoes that are received and understood to correspond to the beam's core element. The ultrasonic beam is created when a small group of about 20 nearby elements fire simultaneously. The number of active elements determines the synthetic aperture, or effective transducer width, created by the simultaneous activation. In the receive mode, signals from the majority of the transducer elements are acquired in order to detect echoes. When one or two transducer elements are displaced, another group of transducer elements is fired to do a subsequent A-line acquisition. High-frequency ultrasound is used by a linear probe to produce high-resolution images of structures close to the surface of the body. Because of this, the probe is perfect for vascular imaging and specific operations like central line implantation. It also produces a rectangular field of view and uniform beam density throughout. Secondly, we have the curvilinear array transducer. Although the operational mechanism is similar, the physical arrangement differs from that of a linear array. A curvilinear array transducer creates a picture by shifting the active elements by one to acquire the subsequent line of data after activating a subgroup of the transducer elements that make up one A line of data in the scanned item. A large field of vision is produced using a trapezoidal format using curvilinear arrays. A curvilinear probe is a great tool for visualizing intra-abdominal tissues since it employs lower frequency ultrasound, which allows for deep penetration and a large depth of focus. Lastly, we have the phased array transducer. Typically, a phased array transducer consists of 64 to 128 individual elements. A single ultrasonic beam is produced by almost simultaneously activating each transducer element. The ultrasonic beam can be electrically focused and directed by employing time delays in the electrical activation of the elements across the transducer's phase. All of the transducer components identify the beam paths returning echoes during signal reception, and the detection algorithm combines the data to create the image. Through a tiny acoustic window, phased array probes provide a high depth of field in a compact package, enabling ultrasonography to view deep structures. An ultrasound image is constructed from echoes returned from tissues, and there are three types of modes that are commonly used to display this information. The first is A mode or amplitude scan. A mode is the display of the processed information from the receiver versus time. A single ultrasound beam is transmitted and echoes from different reflections in anatomy is recorded in terms of its receiving time interval. This allows the measure of distance between two reflections. In A mode scan, the ultrasound probe acts both as a transmitter of the ultrasound pulse and as a receiver of the echo. A mode scans are usually used in ophthalmology to measure eyeball length and dermatology to measure the skin thickness. B mode or brightness scan is a 2D cross-sectional image that shows the tissue boundaries created using a B mode scan. A mode lines, each of which is created by a pulse echo sequence, are combined to form B mode scan images in large numbers. The brightness value at the XY point represents the amplitude of each echo. It is possible to depict high amplitude echoes as low brightness or high brightness, resulting in black on white or white on black presentations. B mode images captured in real time are useful in the display of moving structures, like fetuses in the womb. Lastly, the M mode or motion scan. It is the ultrasonic beam in an M mode scan oriented in relation to the moving boundary being examined, such as a heart valve. Repeated A scans in a single direction intersecting the moving boundary, like a heart valve, are used to achieve this. An echo time fluctuation caused by boundary movement is shown on the monitor as a displacement along the vertical axis and a time variation along the horizontal axis. Excellent temporal resolution of motion patterns can be obtained with M mode scanning. The term ultrasound resolution describes an ultrasound system's capacity to differentiate between different structures and generate crisp, detailed images. There are three main types of ultrasound resolution. Firstly, we have the axial resolution. This is the ability to distinguish two structures that are close together along the axis of the ultrasound beam. It is typically expressed in millimeters and is based on the pulse duration. Distance is measured using axial resolution along a line parallel to the ultrasound beam. Objects with axial resolution exist at roughly the same depths. Therefore, the depth of imaging has no effect on them. When it comes to object separation, axial resolution is several times more effective than lateral resolution because of its reduced reliance on beam width. Using shorter wavelengths and higher frequencies can enhance the axial resolution quality. By using high-frequency ultrasonic imaging, frequency can be increased from 8 MHz to 12 MHz. High-frequency transducers are typically used in superficial imaging modalities, since high frequencies have an impact on the beam's penetration capability. Secondly, we have the lateral resolution. It is the ability to distinguish two structures that are close together, but perpendicular to the ultrasound beam. The width of the ultrasonic beam affects lateral resolution, which is commonly expressed in millimeters. The distance between items that are side by side or perpendicular to the beam is measured using lateral resolution. Lateral resolution is less dependable than axial resolution. Both the ultrasound beam width and imaging depth have a significant impact. By strengthening the focal zone and utilizing high-frequency transducers, lateral resolution is increased. Similar to axial resolution, the former reduces the beam's ability to penetrate. Lastly, we have temporal resolution. Temporal resolution is related to the ability of an ultrasound system to capture and display images in real time. Frame rate, or the number of frames displayed per second, is a common way to express it. Better temporal resolution is achieved at higher frame rates. The Doppler effect in ultrasound involves the shift in frequency of sound waves emitted from a moving source or reflecting off a moving target. Doppler ultrasound is useful for evaluating blood flow in a number of medical contexts, such as obstetrics, vascular investigations, and cardiology. The Doppler ultrasound uses frequency, or the rate at which the pitch changes, to measure blood flow velocity. Red blood cells in the blood vessels are an example of a moving item that alters the frequency of reflected ultrasonic waves. A positive Doppler shift or frequency shift results from an increase in the frequency of the reflected waves when the item is moving towards the ultrasonic transducer. A negative Doppler shift results from a drop in frequency when the item moves away from the transducer. Color Doppler imaging is frequently used in medical ultrasound to show blood flow. The various blood flow velocities are given colors by the Doppler effect. Red, for instance, might indicate flow in the transducer's direction, which is positive Doppler shift, whereas blue might indicate flow in the opposite direction, which is the negative Doppler shift. Ultrasound imaging has various clinical applications across different medical specialties. Some clinical applications of ultrasound imaging include, firstly, obstetrics and gynecology. For fetal research, ultrasound is the only imaging modality that is regularly used. Secondly is cardiac imaging. Mitral valve stenosis, or narrowing of the mitral valve orifice, regurgitation, or improper valve closure, congenital heart disease are among the cardiac disorders that can be diagnosed by ultrasound imaging. Thirdly is breast imaging. A safer and more effective method of checking the breast for suspicious lumps that might be malignant is with breast ultrasounds. These are starting to become the standard procedure for these kind of tests. Ultrasonic guidance is the standard method used for breast biopsies, directing the probe to extract the desired piece of soft tissue for analysis. Fourthly is musculoskeletal imaging. During an ultrasound examination, doctors can view the internal body's joints, muscles, and blood arteries. Investigating muscular pulls, tears, nerve issues, and conditions like osteoporosis and arthritis is made easier by these images. Soft tissue injuries, collagen disorders, and other soft tissue conditions are all treated using ultrasound. Lastly is in ophthalmology. An eye and orbit ultrasound measures and creates comprehensive images of the eye and orbit using high-frequency sound waves. Compared to a standard eye exam, this test offers a far more thorough image of the inside of your eye. This process is useful for both detecting eye ailments and diagnosing eye diseases. Ultrasound imaging is generally considered safe, and it does not involve ionizing radiations like X-ray or CT scans. However, there are certain safety considerations and guidelines to ensure the safe use of ultrasound. Here are some safety issues associated with ultrasound imaging. Firstly, the problem statement is biological effects in tissues. Tissues may have biological responses from ultrasound energy. There are two types of these effects, thermal and non-thermal. Thermal effects are caused by the absorption of ultrasonic energy by tissue, which raises the temperature. Mechanical interactions between the ultrasonic waves and tissues are responsible for non-thermal effects. High-intensity focused ultrasound, when used for therapeutic reasons, can result in localized heating and tissue injury. While diagnostic ultrasonography usually uses low-intensity waves, they do not cause a significant temperature rise. The possible solutions and recommendations for biological effects of ultrasound include, firstly, temperature monitoring. To monitor the temperature in real time when doing ultrasonography procedures. To continually measure tissue temperature, thermocouples or infrared thermography can be used. Healthcare practitioners can modify parameters throughout monitoring to guarantee that temperature remain within safe bounds. Secondly is pulse mode. Instead of using ultrasound in a continuous mode, use it in pulse mode. By allowing tissues to cool in between pulses, pulsed ultrasound lowers the total amount of heat produced. In therapeutic applications, it can be particularly crucial to strike a balance between the intended outcomes and the requirement to avoid overheating. Thirdly is intensity control. The ultrasonic wave's strength can be changed and controlled. Reducing the intensity can slow the rate at which tissue heats up. In order to balance the intended therapeutic effects with the possibility of heat injury, this is especially crucial in therapeutic ultrasound applications. Fourthly is cooling systems. Use cooling strategies to counteract the buildup of heat. During therapeutic ultrasound operations, this can involve dissipating heat from the skin surface utilizing cooling gels, water circulation systems, or air cooling devices. The second problem statement is cavitation. The creation and disintegration of gas-filled bubbles in tissues is known as cavitation. While cavitation is normally not a major issue with diagnostic ultrasonography, it can occur when high-intensity ultrasound is used for therapeutic purposes, such as lithotripsy, and can have cavitation consequences that can cause tissue damage. Excessive cavitation, especially in therapeutic applications using high-intensity ultrasound, can lead to tissue injury. Rapid bubble development and collapse has the potential to induce mechanical stress on nearby tissues, which may lead to necrosis, damage, or disruption of cells. Localized heat can be produced by cavitation because of the bubble's compression and expansion. In certain instances, this heat may contribute to thermal effects, raising the tissue's temperature. Excessive or uncontrolled heating could harm the intended region. Hemolysis is the term for the phenomenon where the red blood cells burst as a result of cavitation. This could happen if bubbles burst close to blood vessels, mechanically harming the blood cells. Possible solutions and recommendations for cavitations from ultrasound include, firstly, cavitation monitoring. Use monitoring strategies to evaluate and manage cavitation. Doctors can monitor and control the cavitation effects during therapeutic operations to make sure that they stay within safe bounds, with real-time imaging or acoustic feedback devices. Secondly is intensity or frequency control. To reduce non-thermal impacts, modify the ultrasound wave's frequency and intensity. The likelihood of unintentional mechanical interactions and cavitation can be increased by lowering the intensity and choosing the right frequencies. Thirdly, localized application. Minimize exposure to neighboring tissues by concentrating ultrasound on the designated target location. This is especially important for therapeutic applications like high-intensity focused ultrasound tumor ablation, where accuracy is essential. Fourthly, use of contrast agents. Consider the use of contrast agents to enhance diagnostic imaging by increasing the visibility of blood vessels and tissues. Microbubble contrast agents can minimize non-thermal effects and eliminate the need for high-intensity ultrasound. When designing ultrasound equipment, functionality, safety, user experience, and image quality are given top priority. The following are some good practices for ultrasonic machine design. Firstly is image quality. Ultrasound instruments must ensure great image quality because it directly affects diagnostic accuracy. Enhanced transducer and signal processing improve medical image clarity, enabling healthcare professionals to diagnose patients with accuracy and precision. Possible solutions and recommendations for image quality include, firstly, high-frequency transducers. To use transducers with higher frequencies to improve the resolution. Secondly, is advanced signal processing algorithms. To create complex algorithms that reduce noise and improve contrast to improve image clarity. Thirdly, is efficient beamforming techniques. For improved image quality, use beamforming techniques that maximize the focus and direction of ultrasonic waves. Next, we have user interface and controls. When using ultrasound devices on a regular basis, healthcare professionals need an interface that is both intuitive and easy to use. Individual tastes are catered to thorough customizable settings, and usability testing guarantees that the device works for users of different skill levels, thus increasing its effectiveness and usability. Possible solutions and recommendations for user interface and controls include, firstly, intuitive touchscreen controls. To design a useful, friendly interface with intuitive controls for easy navigation. Secondly is customizable settings, to give users the option to alter imaging parameters and presets in accordance with their personal preferences in unique diagnostic requirements. Next, we have portability. Medical practitioners can perform imaging studies in a variety of locations, thanks to the consideration of portability in the design of ultrasonic devices. The device's mobility, which facilitates point-of-care application and enhances overall healthcare accessibility, is facilitated by lightweight materials, small designs, wireless connectivity, and long-lasting batteries. Possible solutions and recommendations for portability include, firstly, compact design, by making the device form factor as light and portable as possible to facilitate transportation. Secondly is wireless connectivity, to incorporate wireless capabilities for networking and data transfer to minimize the requirements for wired connections and increase mobility. Thirdly is long-lasting batteries, to utilize long-lasting, high-capacity batteries to increase the device's working hour in a variety of situations. Next, we have safety. Ultrasound devices must have strong safety safeguards to shield users and patients from danger. The device's safe and responsible usage in medical settings is ensured by its real-time monitoring capabilities, compliance with international safety standards, and clear user instructions. The latter protect against excessive ultrasonic energy exposure. Possible solutions and recommendations for safety include, firstly, real-time energy monitoring. Use features that allow for continuous assessment and management of the ultrasonic energy delivered. Secondly is adherence to standards. To guarantee the safety of the device while it is operating, adhere to and surpass international safety standards. Thirdly, user alerts. Include alarms and user alerts to inform operators about possible safety issues or incorrect use. To guarantee precise and dependable imaging, increase the equipment's lifespan and reduce downtime. Proper maintenance of ultrasound equipment is essential. The following are some recommendations for ultrasonic machine maintenance. Firstly, we have regular cleaning. The hospital is filled with many bacteria and viruses, and they could land on the transducers which healthcare providers and patients use and which will infect them. Regularly cleaning the transducer, control panel, and any external surfaces to prevent the buildup of dirt and contaminants. Possible solutions and recommendations for regular cleaning include, firstly, utilize the wipes or disinfectants of medical grade that the device's manufacturer has advised. Secondly, give instructions on how to clean properly to protect delicate components. Thirdly, for transducer and control panels, think about utilizing washable and replaceable covers or single-use protective sheets. Next, we have electrical safety and transducer inspection. A defective transducer has the potential to create electrical dangers for both patients and healthcare professionals. Transducers need to be checked for any visible damage, wear and tear, to prevent signal degradation and ensure reliable data transmission. Possible solutions and recommendations for electrical safety and transducer inspections include, firstly, urge users to routinely check their wires and to report any damage. Secondly, is for cables to choose sturdy, high-quality materials to reduce wear. Thirdly, to lessen the tension on connection points, incorporate strain relief systems for cables into the design. Next, we have software update. Ultrasonic system software need to be updated to the latest software to improve its functionality. Technicians need to update the ultrasound system's software with the latest software and firmware releases provided by the manufacturer. These updates often include bug fixes, performance improvements, and security enhancements. Possible solutions and recommendations for software updates include to set up an automated update system to notify users of available software updates. Secondly, give users resources and clear instructions so that they can carry out manual updates. Thirdly, set up a timetable for regular updates and software inspections. Next, we have calibration checks. Perform regular calibration checks to ensure the accuracy of the ultrasound measurements and image quality. Possible solutions and recommendations for calibration checks include, firstly, automatic calibration processes in the software for the device. Secondly, give qualified technicians detailed instructions on how to do manual calibration tests. Thirdly, for traceability purposes, create a calibration program and record the results. Next, to regular inspections by professionals. To find out and fix potential problems, schedule routine maintenance and inspections by trained experts. Possible solutions and recommendations for inspections include, firstly, for routine inspections, offer a service contract with qualified experts. Secondly, provide diagnostic tools that let service experts monitor you remotely. Thirdly, determine a preventive maintenance plan depending on the age and usage of the equipment. Adherence to standards and guidelines is necessary for good manufacturing practices for ultrasound machines in order to guarantee the manufacturing of safe and high-quality medical devices. The following are important guidelines that producers must adhere to. Quality management system. Manufacturers must establish and maintain a comprehensive quality management system that conforms to international standards such as the ISO 13485. Manufacturers might implement procedures for document control, risk management, and change control. Possible solutions and recommendations for quality management systems include, firstly, when it comes to risk management for ultrasound machines, manufacturers must adhere to ISO 14971, which explains the terms, ideas, and procedure for risk management in medical devices. The procedure aids in locating, estimating, and assessing risks and hazards. It offers guidance for putting controls in place to successfully manage risks. Manufacturers need to monitor the effectiveness of these controls to ensure that the ultrasound machines adhere to risk managements to prevent harm to the patients, users, and others. Next, we have the design and development. Manufacturers should follow a systematic and well-documented process and consider their users' needs, intended use, and regulatory requirements. They must conduct risk assessments and design validation. Possible solutions and recommendations for design and development include, firstly, design validation validates the device design by establishing the objective evidence that the specification conforms to user needs and intended users. Manufacturers need to establish and maintain procedures for design validation. This includes performing the design validation under defined operating conditions, on initial production units or their equivalent, and under actual or stimulated use conditions. During the design validation stage, manufacturers must ensure that the ultrasound machine meets the necessary performance, usability, safety, and regulatory criteria, providing users with a reliable and effective health monitoring solution. By doing this, manufacturers can ensure the safety and effectiveness of the ultrasound equipment. Next, we have post-market surveillance. One essential component of the lifecycle management of medical devices, particularly ultrasound machines, is post-market surveillance. It entails the methodical and proactive gathering, evaluation, and interpretation of data regarding a medical device's efficacy, safety, and performance following its release onto the market. Monitoring and guaranteeing the device's continued performance and safety over the course of its whole life cycle is the main objective of post-market monitoring. Possible solutions and recommendations for post-market surveillance include manufacturers should establish procedures for monitoring the performance of the ultrasound machines in the market, and manufacturers should also implement a system for collecting and analyzing feedback, complaints, and adverse events. The checklist of good maintenance practices include, firstly, is the ultrasound machine and transducer been thoroughly cleaned with manufacturer-approved disinfectant? Secondly, has the electrical safety and transducer of the ultrasound machine been inspected? Thirdly, has the ultrasound system's software been updated with the latest software update? Fourthly, has the ultrasound's calibration been checked? And lastly, has the ultrasound machine been inspected by a professional?